Hello, everyone. This is Boyan from the Pathfinders team. We are starting the broadcast of our webinar. We have an amazing set of speakers today. Thank you, everyone who has joined us today. We have opportunity for you to ask us questions throughout the call, which you can do if you're on the web browser by inserting them in the chat box. If you are on the phone, you can always email me, and I'm going to be checking my email so we have real-time updates on the question. My email is bf1315@nyu.edu. Also, feel free to chat me privately throughout the call if you do have any questions or concerns. We do have participants slowly streaming in. I should also mention that this call will be recorded and will be available on our social media accounts for future viewing. And from here, I'm gonna hand it over to David, who's gonna be our MC today.
Great, thank you, Boyan, and welcome everybody to the bigger call on SDG 16 Plus and on the High Level Political Forum. My name is David Stephen. I'm an Associate Director here at the Centre on International Cooperation at NYU. And I also help run the Pathfinders for Peaceful, Just and Inclusive Societies, a multi-stakeholder platform for the implementation of SDG 16 Plus. I'm just going to say a few words about the purpose of the call, and then I'm going to introduce our amazing array of speakers. We just had the Rome Preparatory Conference on SDG 16. It's a little while away now, and I think what we saw there was an immense diversity of activity, energy, examples, best practice solutions on SDG 16 Plus, and a real appetite to use the HLPF as a platform to take us forward. We're now just a few days really away from that event that many of us have been working towards for for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years. There's going to be an enormous amount of activity at that event. We're going to hear about the formal process, but we also have registered now almost 100 side events on various aspects of SDG 16 Plus, some within the UN, some outside the UN. And I think what we're really trying to do with this call and with the ongoing interaction between the initiatives working on this part of the agenda is to ensure that all of this activity adds up to more than the sum of its parts, that we get a very clear sense of the progress that we've made, that we get a very clear sense of what challenges are faced on SDG 16 Plus implementation, that we can see where there is best practice and solutions that should be taken to scale, that we confront some of the problems that are being faced, but we particularly set our eyes towards the future. Behind me, many of you have seen our countdown clock before, but behind me, and I'm just going to move over slightly, behind us we have the countdown clock, not for the High Level Political Forum, but for the SDG Summit, first SDG Summit, the first of these 4 yearly meetings where leaders are asked to come and bring accelerator commitments, so to set out an acceleration in ambition on all 70 SDGs. And there's a UN registry where countries, governments, and other stakeholders can register their commitments to do more in the next 4 years. So I think our challenge is to use the HLPF to build a sense of what we've achieved, to build momentum for the future, and then to take that to the SDG Summit and to demonstrate a very strong acceleration in ambition. So I hope on this call we can begin to do this, and then we can keep in touch through the WhatsApp group, align our communication messages, make sure that something consistent is coming out of our events, and give all of the countries who are coming, all of the delegations who are coming, a very strong sense of what can be achieved. On this call, we have colleagues from many of the initiatives that have been working at a kind of umbrella level to bring other actors, other stakeholders, other partners together around the HLPF. We obviously have my colleague Hashani from the Pathfinders. We have speakers from the 16 Plus Forum, from the TAP Network, from Global Alliance, and from UN Global Compact, the Global Partnership to End Violence Against Children. So you're going to get a good array of the different initiatives that are working on SDG 16 plus and the networks that they have been trying to build. But first of all, we have a very special guest on this call. We have Ambassador King, who's the permanent representative of St. Vincent and Grenadines, and more importantly, is for our call is the current president of ECOSOC and is therefore responsible for making a success of the high-level political forum. I first met Ambassador King, I think, back in October when there was a retreat that the PGA and the president of ECOSOC called to start the preparations for the HLPF and for the SDG summit. And the ambassador has been very clear that she wants a dynamic, interactive HLPF and has worked enormously hard with many of us over the past year to make sure that we're prepared to do that. So I'm going to hand over in a minute to Ambassador King, who's going to give us a briefing on where we stand ahead of the HLPF. There'll then be a brief opportunity to ask her some questions because she can only stay till around 11:15, won't be able to stay right to the end of the call. So if you do have questions, email them to Bojan, put them in the chat, or put your hand up through the interactive system, and we'll break for some questions from her. Then we'll then hear from the other speakers, and I'll introduce them one by one as we get to them, and then we'll have another opportunity for questions and interaction. So thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador. We're looking forward to hearing your remarks. Over to you.
Thank you, David. And ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it is indeed an honor, actually, and a privilege for me to join you through this for this very important gathering and the bigger call. David would know that I have a little passion personally for this SDG, even though I am responsible for all of them right now, but this one and the work that I've seen groups like yours are doing around the globe really is quite impressive. Now, so to my script, with less than a week until the HLPF, the end of the ECOSOC 2018-2019 cycle, you should be well advanced in your coordination efforts. However, now is indeed the time to maximize your advocacy efforts within and beyond the SDG 16 plus community. SDG 16 is, of course, a very important goal for the achievement of the 2030 agenda as a whole. It is closely intertwined with other SDGs. So I need not get into those details because you know better than I do how important this particular goal is across the entire agenda. Now, I have said throughout the year that I want this to be the best HLPF ever. It is a milestone HLPF as it finishes the first 4-year cycle since the adoption of the 2030 agenda. This year's HLPF will also be an important contribution to the HLPF held under the auspices of the General Assembly, the SDG Summit in September. It will also contribute to the ensuing discussions on the review of the format and organizational aspects of the HLPF during the next session of the General Assembly. There will be no negotiated outcome at the HLPF under the auspices of ECOSOC this year, but there will be a political declaration at the SDG Summit per GA Resolution 70/299. I use this opportunity, of course, now to congratulate my colleagues from Bahamas and Sweden for expertly conducting the negotiations on the draft document. So no one broke silence. So we now have an actual declaration, which I think will be useful even in these discussions moving forward. I am in the process of appointing 5 countries as rapporteurs who will assist me in preparing a robust President's summary. It will reflect the deliberations, certainly on SDG 16. With this in mind, I'm pleased to say that the overall preparations of the HLPF July meeting and high-level segment of ECOSOC are proceeding smoothly and in the final stages. More than 90 ministers and vice ministers will attend the the meetings, along with more than 2,000 representatives of major groups and stakeholders. Overall, more than 120 speakers, including resource persons and lead discussants, will come to speak to the HLPF in thematic and SDG review sessions and high-level segment of ECOSOC, including ministers, distinguished experts, and high-level speakers from the UN system and other organizations. The President of the General Assembly and the Secretary General will give opening remarks at the opening of the high-level segment of ECOSOC and ministerial segment of the HLPF to be held in the morning of Tuesday, 16th July in the General Assembly Hall. And that's a little change. We are now going to have that grand hall to do the opening, not CR4 as we have done over the last 3 years. We will also have Mr. Richard Curtis. Many of you know him as a SDG advocate. Mr. Curtis devised Project Everyone, which has as its mission to ensure that everyone on the planet knows what the global goals are, so that we stand the greatest chance of so that they stand the greatest chance of being achieved. Additionally, we will have two other eminent keynote speakers, Miss Mary Robinson, former President of Ireland and Chair of the Elders, and Mr. Lee, Chair of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It will be a very interesting opening of the ministerial segment of the HLPF and high-level segment of ECOSOC. The discussion of SDG 16 will take place on Friday, 12 July. We will have an eminent keynote speaker, Ms. Laura Chinchilla, former President of Costa Rica and Vice President of the Club de Madrid. We will then have a roundtable with 4 resource persons and several lead discussants who will consider the comprehensive list of recommendations for action that resulted from the preparatory process. The Rome meeting to prepare for the review of SDG 16 identified recommendations on enhancing peace, dialogue, and reconciliation, preventing and ending all forms of violence, safeguarding children, promoting the rule of law, ensuring equal access to justice for all, promoting human rights, addressing discriminatory laws, building effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions. These questions and the Rome meeting reminded us of the multiple facets of SDG 16 and their cross-cutting impact. Apart from discussions on the goals under review, we are going to have a session on the progress on SDGs at all levels and in countries in various situations. It will be kickstarted by the Undersecretary General of DESA, who will present the special edition of the Secretary General SDG Progress Report. We will also have sessions on SIDS, LDCs, and LLDCs, the Science Policy Interface, the outcome of STI Forum, and Sustainable Development Financing. There will be a multi-stakeholder session organized by major groups and other stakeholders independently. We will also examine the implementation of SDGs through the lens of voluntary national reviews, and we will discuss lessons learned from the 4 years of HLPF. The ministerial segment will hear 47 VNR presentations, of which 40 are coming for the first time and 7 for the second. Once they present their VNRs this year, we will have had 142 countries that would have presented their VNRs thus far. I have created a group of friends of VNRs to support the preparations of the interactive discussion on VNRs at the HLPF to make it more substantive. We have also, we will also have a town hall meeting on the lessons we have learned on how the HLPF has worked over the last 4 years and ideas for improving it. It will be informed by the results of a survey we are conducting at the moment to get the views of all actors on how the HLPF has delivered on its functions. Before the closing of the HLPF, we will hear the main messages from the 8 days, which will be collected and presented by ministers from Colombia and Liechtenstein. I thank both governments for taking on this task. In addition to the formal meetings, 156 side events, 36 exhibitions, and 17 VNR labs will be organized in the margins of the forum, and applicants are receiving confirmations as we speak. The schedule and the program of the side events and VNR labs are available online. A number of special events, such as the Higher Education Sustainability Initiative event, Philanthropy and SDGs event, Chief Sustainability Officers for SDGs event, and Local 2030 Agenda event will also be organized during this HLPF. In order to make this HLPF the best ever, I will need the cooperation from all involved. The Pathfinders have already made a huge contribution to the success of the HLPF by their thorough preparation of the review of SDG16. So I thank you for this, and I look forward to your continuing participation in the HLPF. So with that, I hand back to you, David, and I'm open to any questions, and I will try to answer them if there are any.
Brilliant. So if you do have questions for Ambassador King, please do put up your hand or come into the chat. But I wondered if I could start with a question on the that we have a very large number of supporting events. We have a strong central program, but I wondered if you could give us in the SDG16 Plus community a sense of your do's and don'ts. What do you think we can do to really help amplify the messages coming out of the HLPF? And are there some things that you think we should avoid doing in order to to reduce fragmentation or to minimize the messages?
Well, nothing comes to mind about what you shouldn't do. Actually, I'm not. This is a space where all voices are welcome. We want an interactive. The sessions to be interactive. So what we don't want are prepared statements. Your members can do that in the general debate. There is space for their 4-minute and 6-minute statements in the general debate. So if I have a don't right off the cuff, it would be to bring your TPs. What are the sound bites you want heard in the sessions, and make them, and you would have ample opportunity to come again. So try not to make all the points right away. That is going to kill the interactive session. So we want it to be interactive. We want it to be a deliberative space. So that's the first don't that comes to mind. Try to steer away as far as possible from prepared statements.
And I have another question that's come in from GovNet, who are asking about the fact that SDG 16 has always caused a certain amount of controversy within the UN. It was a difficult goal to negotiate, and I think there were some arguments around it, or at least some discussion around it during the drafting of the political statement. I wondered if you're picking up a sense of some of this opposition and how that's being handled in the HLPF is the question, you know, where do you see the big support for this goal coming from?
Well, let's go first to the yes, it was one of the most difficult SDGs to conclude. We know why and how, and there is the North-South divide, and I think that remains. So your big champions, of course, I think come from the North, but increasingly you have countries recognizing in the debate there's no peace without development, that the core of the nexus is strong institutions. So we have so you have that on your side, and increasingly the argument, I believe, is resonating. So yes, there are those who will be pushing back, but I don't think that's the issue. The space is there. You need to continue doing your advocacy in the way that you have done. We know that you didn't have a docking station within the system, but your advocacy has been extraordinary. So I don't listen to noises. I listen to those who are proactive, and I'm just encouraging you to continue doing that, because you are making excellent inroads. So continue doing what you're doing. Continue doing your advocacy, because I think the difficulties are behind you now. Continue to raise your awareness, because I think you've made the argument of the significance of strong institutions to development. So I don't think, perhaps I am a bit biased, but that would be my thing. Continue doing what you're doing.
Great, and I have a final question that really balances onto the idea of opportunities, and this is to ask you to say a little bit more about the call for Accelerator Actions. We know that you've made that one of the priorities for the HLPF, and then it's essential to the political declaration and will be a main component of the SDG summit. Can you say a little bit more about that call and how you think we should be responding to it?
Yes. One of the ways that we want that call to be made is for as many real stories to come into the we are not interested in having theoretical debates on what targets are. What we want is real life stories about what the challenges are, as well as what best practices are emergent. So it needs to be a learning space, which is why it has to be interactive. So bring the best stories that can teach, bring the challenges that still exist, because we cannot accelerate action if we are simply using the space for political sound bites that don't paint an accurate picture of both the best practices and the challenges. We need to know what the challenges are. We need to know how we can bridge those gaps. So those stories, we need encouraging stories. We need to be reminded of what the tools are. So I will encourage real life stories, because that's in my tour around the world. People are doing interesting things. We need those stories on the floor during the HLPF, so people can be encouraged by what is possible.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ambassador. That was great, and it's really fantastic to get your political guidance, and we look forward to working under your leadership during the during the high-level political forum. We're now going to move on. I know that you can't stay for the whole session, but I hope you'll be able to hear some of the speakers. We're now going to move on to our panel of speakers, each of whom is just going to brief very, very quickly on some of the key preparatory elements, so that we still have a little bit of time left for Q&A as at the end of the call. So I'm first going to go to Hashani, who's the deputy here on the Pathfinders program, who's going to talk a little bit about what we're calling the SDG16 Festival Guide, about the joint statement, and about a few of the other initiatives that we're preparing here at Pathfinders. So Hashani, over to you.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone who's on the call. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you on behalf of the Pathfinders. Over the last few weeks and few months, much of the Pathfinders work has really been concentrated on celebrating progress, promoting best practices and solutions to really infuse a sense of possibility around SDG16+, to accelerate the level of ambition for SDG16+, and to really seed this sense of momentum and movement for the SDG Summit in the coming months thereafter. So some very, very quick key highlights from some of our efforts that we've been working on with many of the partners on the call. So one quick highlight includes, as David mentioned, a member state-led joint statement on SDG16+. For several weeks now, we have supported Pathfinder member states in the drafting of a joint statement on SDG16+, which has been prepared under the leadership of the Permanent Mission of Argentina, with inputs from PEM representatives at breakfast meetings over the last 6 months or so. These breakfast meetings have been hosted by Argentina, Switzerland, Norway, and the Republic of Korea, and attended by partners from the broader SDG16+ community. Under the stewardship of the Mission of Argentina, the purpose of this joint statement is really to bring a collective voice to highlight the importance of SDG16+ to the 2030 agenda, demonstrate a growing national commitment for the implementation of peace, justice, and inclusion, and bring accelerator actions to the SDG Summit. The Mission of Argentina has called on member states widely to join this joint statement. For partners on the call, if you are interested in joining this statement or work closely with member states and are interested in passing this along, please let us know following this call. We'll also be sharing information further on this joint statement. So highlight number 2, our work on the Task Force on Justice, which is an initiative of the Pathfinders. It's largely led by Argentina, the Netherlands, Sierra Leone, and the Elders. It was really created to accelerate the implementation of 16.3. Over the course of almost 2 years now, it's surprising how fast that goes by. This work has culminated in the Justice for All report, which presents a vision for justice systems that places people at its center and calls all actors across all sectors to transform our justice systems from a model that provides justice for the few to one that delivers justice for all. This report will be launched formally on Monday, the 15th of July at the Millennium Hilton Hotel. And the event is co-sponsored by the Netherlands, the Elders, Namasi, and the Open Society Justice Initiative. And then finally, 2 quick takeaways, or 2 quick highlights include the SDG16 Festival Guide, which the Pathfinders has put together as a public good, so to speak, for the broader SDG16 community. It features over 100 plus events on peace, justice, and inclusion during the HLPF, and our guide serves as a supplement to the official program. It's both downloadable as a PDF and through our online app, so you can have it in your pockets ready to go during the next few days. We'll also be sharing more information about this after the call. And then finally, last key highlight on the SDG16 WhatsApp group. which includes partners who've expressed interest to join an interactive chat group to share the latest updates on all matters to do with SDG16 Plus during the HLPF. It's an opportunity to share the latest information, your key reports or events or meetings that you're preparing in the lead up in the next few weeks. It brings together around 50 members so far who've agreed to join since the last big call in April. If you'd like to join, please include your number in the link that will be provided in the chat box very soon. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hashani. I'm now going to hand over to Margaret Williams from the 16 Plus Forum, one of the, sorry, I'm just getting a bit of echo. Can you just put on mute? Yeah, I'm now going to hand over to Margaret Williams, who is from the 16 Plus Forum, one of the three umbrella initiatives working together ahead of the HLPF. I think we've had our first retreat for this around 18 months ago now, starting the preparations with the 16 Plus Forum and the Global Alliance, who you'll hear from later. And the 16 Plus Forum is also organising its annual showcase in Timor-Leste in, I think, early November. So we're going to have the HLPF, the SDG Summit, and then we all have an opportunity to gather in Timor to take the agenda forward. So Maggie, over to you to talk about the Umbrella event.
Great. So thank you so much to the Pathfinders for organizing this call, to all who have spoken, Ambassador King. It's a pleasure and a privilege. Just a quick note, I don't know if you can see them, but I'm also here with my colleagues Nick and Claudia. They are part of my team here, and we work quite closely together in all efforts going forward. So just briefly, given time restraints, I was asked to brief on this joint umbrella event that we're organizing, 16 Plus Forum, Global Alliance, and the Pathfinders, as well as the TAP Network. LexisNexis and the UK mission is host for the UNHQ portion of these back-to-back events on the evening of the 16th of July. You should have all received the Eventbrite to attend, but in short, the first event is from 6:15 to 7:30 in the ECOSOC chamber. The second is a reception directly following at the Ford Foundation for Social Justice from 7:30 to 9 p.m. And the point of these back-to-back events, building off of what Harshani and Ambassador King and David already mentioned, is to really highlight the importance of 16 Plus, its interlinkages across the SDGs, to celebrate the national experiences of SDG16 in action, including through VNRs, to galvanize political will and forward-looking multi-stakeholder commitments, and to inspire accelerating actions in the lead up to the summit. Further echoing what Ambassador King has mentioned, we are very much hoping and pushing for this to be an interactive event, no statements, and to feature ministers, experts, UN representatives, private sector, and civil society actors. We don't have a full list of confirmed speakers yet, but we will have ministers from Sierra Leone and Timor-Leste. We'll have youth leaders from the Philippines and Somalia, civil society leaders through the TAP Network, private sector voice through White and Case, as well as Her Excellency Mary Robinson, former president and chair of the elders, and Her Excellency Michelle Bachelet, former president and UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. So we have, we will be sending out more details on the speaker soon, as well as the event, but please do let us know if you haven't received the Eventbrite yet, and we are very much looking forward to welcoming you all and using this, these back-to-back events, organized and co-owned by the various initiatives working on 16 Plus and supported by the broader 16 Plus community, to really drive action, to look forward, see what else we can do, and just mobilize energy and commitment. So that was really brief. I'm not sure if that was too brief, but David, let me know, and also happy to take any questions on this as you'd like.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Maggie. And we are very excited about these events. It's great that the SDG16 Umbrella event is on the 16th. It's a good coincidence. And I think this combination of having a very strong panel discussion where we'll really be able to have an interactive event, and then getting some really impressive speakers like Mary Robinson or Michelle Bachelet to come to a reception where they'll speak briefly, but you'll also have an opportunity to have a glass of wine, socialize, network. Plan for the future should be a really good combination. And we'd also obviously like to thank the UK for hosting the HQ portion, and for sending, or we hope bringing their minister to open the session. Please, if you want to come to those events, do register. It's impossible to get into the UN if you're not registered, and it's going to be very hard to get into the Ford Foundation if you're not registered. So get your names on the list so that we can make sure that we can get you into the venues. I'm now going to, I see John there. I'm going to hand over to John, who's going to talk about, from the TAP network, who's going to talk about the Voices of the SDG campaign, which is a really innovative attempt to as Ambassador King said, to really make this real, what's happening on SDG 16, and also on the Rome CSO declaration, which I see as the parallel to this member state joint statement on SDG 16 plus, which Hashani just mentioned. So John, over to you.
Great, yes, thank you very much, David, and to Pathfinders for hosting this. I think it's really timely. We're now less than a week towards the HLPF. I know there's a lot of excitement that's been built, so I think we're very much looking forward to all of the things that are going to be happening over the next couple of weeks. Yeah, as David mentioned, I'll talk a little bit about a couple of the things from civil society happening around the HLPF. There are many, many more. And so I'll talk very briefly about just a couple of things here, and then you can find out more information on all of the things that are happening after this as well. We'll share some links. The first is, it's a big campaign called the Voices of SDG16 Plus, Stories for Global Action. Yeah, like David mentioned and Ambassador King mentioned, what we hope as civil society is from the HLPF and convenings like this in general, is that we want to showcase the stories that colleagues, particularly from civil society, bring from the national and local levels. I think that's where the foundation for implementing SDG 16 lies. I think a lot of encouraging signs of progress have happened, but also, as Ambassador King mentioned, there are some challenges as well. And I think it's important to take a look at where some of our colleagues working on the ground are experiencing those challenges, so that at the global level, we can kind of put together a plan of action on how to address some of these challenges. And so this campaign, the Voices of SDG 16 Plus campaign, our objective was to collect voices and stories from these national and local partners. We did this through a video campaign. We solicited videos. I think we had well over a couple hundred videos submitted to us, which was fantastic. In the end, it was a difficult process, but we identified 12 participants that we are supporting to bring to the HLPF over the next couple of weeks. They'll share their story at an event on the 11th of July. It'll be a kind of an open policy forum where you'll get to hear some of their stories. Those 12 participants from 12 countries. It'll be hosted at the International Peace Institute, 11th of July, starting at 1 p.m. And we'll share more information after this call as well. But I think, again, this is an opportunity for us, not just to see what's happening from these participants, but to bring some of our own partners to have a really great, a fruitful dialogue on, again, the challenges and then what needs to happen and where do we go from here. And so you can find more on the website, again, voicesofsdg16plus.org. The next big, I think, marquee document or opportunity that civil society will be mobilizing around at the HLPF is, as David mentioned, the Rome Civil Society Declaration on SDG 16 plus. This was one of the key outputs from the Rome conference. This for us As the TAP network, we convened civil society the day before the Rome conference and also in the weeks preceding with some of our partners, hosted a broad consultation for the content of this Rome Declaration. This declaration really covers some key areas around SDG16 plus. Again, it takes stock of where we are. I think some of the, I won't go into too much detail because you can find it on our website. It's tapnetwork2030.org/Rome Declaration. I think very, very broadly, I think the Rome Declaration kind of asserts that, you know, there are encouraging signs of progress on SDG16, but I think the world collectively is off track on achieving SDG16, and in many cases, in many countries, backsliding on progress. But that, you know, the Rome Declaration provides some recommendations on how we can get on track. You know, particularly around some key areas for member states to mobilize, but also the Rome Declaration features a broad call to action, particularly offering up what civil society can offer when it comes to taking things forward and accelerating progress. And again, so you can find more, and actually the Rome Declaration is open for endorsements. We have over 90 endorsements thus far from civil society organizations. So please do check it out, and please do endorse it if you get the chance as well. And so finally, you know, David mentioned the commitments, the need to accelerate progress through commitments. And Ambassador King mentioned that as well. One of the things that the TAP network in particular does, our membership structure is actually founded around commitments. So we ask civil society partners to make explicit commitments towards SDG16, tell us what they're doing to advance SDG16 in their own context. We'll be launching a platform that showcases all of these commitments, which we hope will contribute to encouraging more commitments, not just from civil society, but member states at the HLPF. So we'll be launching that in the next few days or so. So please be on the lookout for that. And just finally, again, I won't go into detail on all of the things that TAP is hosting around the HLPF, or that civil society more broadly will be hosting around the HLPF, because we'd be here for a really long time. But for any information that you want to find around, you know, some of the opportunities for engaging with civil society, you can visit our website. It's really simple: tapnetwork2030.org/2019 HLPF. And so you can find all of our resources and all the information about everything that's happening amongst civil society at the HLPF at that website.
Okay, thanks, John. We're beginning to run a little bit short on time, so I'm going to move swiftly on to Alexandra Wilder, who's from the Global Alliance for Reporting Progress on Peaceful, Just and Inclusive Societies, and also from the UNDP Oslo Governance Centre, who's going to brief briefly on the SDG16 Plus report and launch event. Over to you.
Thanks, David, and many thanks to the Pathfinders for convening this meeting. Greetings from Oslo. You're right, I'm here in the UNDP Oslo Governance Centre, and very pleased to be speaking on behalf of the Global Alliance for Reporting on Peaceful, Just and Inclusive Societies. Just two issues that would be great to use this opportunity to convey. The first is around the global report on SDG16 Plus that the Global Alliance has been busy putting together over the last few months. The report looks at the enabling function of SDG16 Plus and how peace, justice and inclusion can be anchored in SDG implementation. It's going live this evening. It's very comprehensive. It's probably too large to digest, but it will be accompanied by specific briefs that provide key recommendations, picking up importantly on some of the accelerator focus that we need to have going into the HLPF and beyond. But the comprehensive nature of the report, I think, is really important in terms of linking what we've seen, particularly in Rome, as these sort of disparate tribes of constituencies working across peace, justice, and inclusion. And I think the real added value of this report is actually bringing out the country experiences. It showcases 25 countries. Important, as the ambassador said, it will complement the Voices of SDG16 campaign. But looking also at how these linkages are being made between peace, justice and inclusion, and looking really in particular at the complexity of SDG implementation and how Goal 16, with its focus on strong institutions, can help manage that complexity, but also bring about what we're calling for the SDGs. How can you, if you strengthen Goal 16, then you're better enabled to have a whole of society approach, a multi-stakeholder approach, systems thinking, interlinkages. You know, these are the areas where countries are going to be confronted with to really have that transformative impact with the SDGs. So I'd just like to thank many that have been involved in the development of the report. It was coordinated by the Global Alliance Secretariat, which comprises UN agencies active on SDG 16. And just to pick up the ambassador's point, and I heard it in Rome, that, you know, Goal 16 or 16 plus doesn't have a docking station. Now, I think we need to look at that as an opportunity. And it really reflects the enabling function, that it needs to be docked and is docked in multiple areas and across also the UN family. We all have a responsibility to take that forward. The report, and I think this has been shared before, it draws from at least 6 regional consultations, bringing together countries, various stakeholders in countries, around what does SDG 16 implementation look like in your country. And I think that's also been an important part of the sort of the inclusive and participatory nature of developing this report, that we take those discussions to the country level, not just in New York. And that will be critical after the HLPF, that we use the recommendations and the findings of the report to sort of zoom in on priority areas, both for investment and for technical support. What we want to do with the report, first we want to demonstrate momentum at country level. We want to showcase what countries are doing to inspire, to sort of mobilize action at the country level, but we also want to stress the urgency. So the report doesn't paint an entirely rosy picture. It also looks at some of the challenges, especially around civic space and inclusion. So we want to inspire other member states with examples of actions, but we also want to stress the importance of Goal 16 Plus for progress on sustainable development. So really position it as an enabler. We have enablers, we have accelerators. We're beginning
to run a little bit short of time, so if you can just get on to the launch.
So just to say, we will be going live with a report. You can find it on the Global Alliance website. You can find it on the SDG16 Hub. There will be a consultation on the report with the case study countries on the 10th of July. And then, of course, we will be sharing it at the Umbrella event. So thank you, David.
Brilliant, thank you very much for that, and we're all very excited to see the final version of the report live at last. So congratulations on that. I'm now going to turn across to Rebecca from the Global Partnership to End Violence Against Children, who's going to talk about the Safe to Learn event and some other events on SDG 16.2 and related targets for children. Rebecca.
Great, thank you, David. So just to say thank you again to you and your team for convening this. I think this really shows the spirit of the HLPF and kind of seizing the opportunity of these global moments that we all have been yearning to be part of. So we have a lot of things going on from the End Violence community, the group of partners working around the world to end violence against children. And I think the events, there's so many side events, I'm not going to delve into too many of them during the HLPF. They're all on schedules. But we are very excited that putting children at the center of our efforts, both around peace and education, are really gaining a lot of momentum, and we're really hoping that partners here can help to seize that momentum and drive it forward. So I just wanted to outline a few of our priorities as a partnership around the HLPF and then I'm going to turn over to my colleague Emma, who has been leading on the Safe to Learn event, which we really again see as the embodiment of that fundamental link between education and peace, looking at how we can end violence in and through schools and make sure that children are safe at school, which is so important. So first of all, on our priorities, we're looking to the HLPF to really begin to demonstrate that progress that's happening in countries and the results from our pathfinding countries to inspire others. So we're looking forward to the voluntary national reviews and hearing what countries have to say about their progress and results. The second priority area for us as a community has been to really inspire political commitments. We're hoping that the number of member states who clearly are so involved in these many side events will be making political commitments that we can then drive forward at the UNGA and other events this year. We are looking at where we can work to create synergies. So you know, this community of this SDG16 plus is perfect for that, but let's look at, during the HLPF discussions, how we can really shine a light on the links between peace and health, between peace and education and other areas. And then in doing so, really grow the movement so that we can help to situate the issues around ending violence against children as part of that broader SDG discussion. So really looking forward to all of those things. We have many events. I'm not going to go through them all now, given our timeline, but Child Fund, the new SRSG, who we're so excited to welcome, will be holding a high-level panel with a number of member states putting children at the center of SDG efforts. We have UNICEF hosting a youth-led event on ending violence against children, and then the event that I'm going to ask my colleague Emma to give us a little bit of an update on is the Safe to Learn event, which will really kick off this big push joining up education and ending violence against children. I'm going to see if Emma's online, and then I will stop there.
Thanks, everybody. And to be super brief, I'm just going to flag that this is our Safe to Learn Leaders event, and as mentioned, we're really excited about bringing together the violence community and the education community. We kind of have three objectives for the event. It's around celebrating the progress that we've already made with Safe to Learn, as well as giving an opportunity for the participants and the speakers to highlight the commitments and the actions that they're taking to make schools a safer place. And we're super excited because if nothing else, we are really building momentum around the partnership. So this most certainly is a jumping off point for us and a moment to stimulate interest and also hopefully, as Rebecca says, generate some of those specific practical actions and commitments. So it's being co-hosted by ED4 from UNICEF and also the Deputy Foreign Minister from Mexico, Martha Delgado, which is fantastic. And our speakers are really shaping up. So we've got the Permanent Secretary from DFID, Matthew Rycroft, speaking. We have a young person who helped co-create a youth manifesto, which is one of the central pillars for Safe to Learn. We have our board member and Minister for Women Empowerment from Indonesia speaking, as well as really high-level representatives from GPE, Alice Albright. We have reps from the bank talking about how they are planning to bring violence prevention and response into their education programming, and then colleagues from the CSO community, UNESCO and others. So we're super excited about this moment. There will be a mixture of member states in the audience, CSOs and colleagues from this community. Invites have gone out. It's not an open event as some of the HLPF ones are, but with that being said, if there are people that will be in New York and that are interested, please get in touch with us and we can see how numbers are shaping up, because we want this to be as inclusive as possible. So I'll really stop there. Thank you for the opportunity and really looking forward to the next couple of weeks.
Sorry, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rebecca and Emma. It's great to hear the progress on violence against children. We've now got one final speaker, Michelle from the UN Global Compact, who I can see in the background there, who's going to talk a little bit about private sector engagement. Michelle, we are short on time, so if you can be as brief as possible, thank you.
No, absolutely. And I can be very brief. First of all, just thank you, Pathfinders. Thank you to the ambassador for hosting this call. The UN Global Compact is the private sector platform that works with the United Nations. We are a voluntary initiative. And what are we doing with Goal 16? For our company members, we have an action platform on peaceful, just societies and strong institutions. So essentially Goal 16, where we're working with a collection of businesses to develop a framework on understanding, implementing, and reporting on Goal 16, not only for businesses themselves, so within their policies, operations, board commitments, corporate governance issues, but also working with governments, civil society, and global governance issues. So we want to look within companies and within the broader community to help further those collaborations around Goal 16. The end product of this initiative is to have translated SDG 16 for business by business, where we think of business actions being complementary to government, not in substitution of government actions. So what are we doing around the HLPF? We have a number of private sector leaders who will be in town. We have been circulating your different events and opportunities to them. So we'll make available the full list of Goal 16 opportunities. We'll have some people attending the Umbrella event, Ford Foundation, etc. We're hosting a roundtable the morning of July 18th at the law firm Baker McKenzie, where we will have member states, civil society, UN agencies, and private sector in sort of rapid fire discussion around UN business partnerships for Goal 16. So at that event, we'll have the chief ethics officer for L'Oreal, we'll have speakers from Nestle, from Baker McKenzie, from Owando, Sumitomo Chemical, Thomson Reuters, etc. So we're really trying to bring together some broader private sector report there. It is a fairly small, limited event. You can register your interest. And I believe that in the festival guide, we do have a link for that. If not, I can make it available to everybody after this call. So we're hosting our own events, but we're also very eager to bring your events to the attention of the private sector. Thanks.
Brilliant, thank you so much, and it's great to hear both the strong work that's happening on civil society and the growing mobilisation of the private sector alongside obviously governments with their core responsibilities for SDG 16 plus. I am really sorry that we've run over time, so we don't have time for a second round of questions, but we can continue this conversation in the WhatsApp group. Do join that group so that we can communicate during the HLPF and help keep people on board. We're also going to have a booth in UN HQ throughout the HLPF, which is an opportunity to pick up the Face Festival Guide and other literature. So please do come and visit that booth. There's going to be a recording of this call available if you want to send it to colleagues. And we're also going to have a third call. We've had the big call. This is the bigger call. We're going to plan the biggest call for just before the SDG Summit. The summit is going to be a very, very crowded week, and we're really, really going to have to work hard to rise above the noise and make sure that SDG 16 plus features in that. I want to just close with 5 quick messages of what we can practically do to make a success. First of all, please come to the Umbrella event. Come to other events and make sure that we have a conversation that runs across all of the diverse activity of the HLPF so that we can really get a sense of building momentum, both the formal sessions and the informal sessions. Second, if you're a civil society organization, support the Rome Declaration so that we get a unified voice from civil society at the HLPF, and we can take that towards the SDG Summit. If you're a member state, please support the joint statement. So similarly, we can get a joint message coming from member states of support for SDG 16 plus that's very practical about how to take implementation forward. Fourth, let's use the next 82 days wisely to build towards the SDG Summit. Have a look at the registry that is on the SDG Summit site that asks for registering of Accelerator Actions. And let's make sure that that registry doesn't just have actions on health and education, etc. It has a strong focus on peace, justice, and inclusion, and we can use that and publicize that. And fifth, let's really work as organizations to align our communication messages to be part of a bigger mobilization using these two linked events roughly 80 days apart to their maximum value. So thank you so much to Ambassador King, who's had to leave us, to all of the speakers who's contributed to the event, to the, I'm not quite sure the numbers, but we've got a large number of people who've been on this call. Join the WhatsApp group. Let's keep the conversation going. And for those of you who are going to be in New York, we look forward to seeing you from Tuesday onwards. Thank you.